and I want to talk about the topic that's called the eternal covenant. The eternal covenant. So today we read in Parshat Nitzavim in Deuteronomy 29 verses 13 and 14. It says here, I am not making this covenant and am administering this oath on God's behalf solely with you, but with those standing here with us today before God, our God, and with those who are not here with us today. And so, our sages, many of our sages and commentators have talked about this, how, those who are not here with us today, the consensus is that these are those in the future generations, even those who are not there are still in this covenant, even though they weren't there to make the covenant, or actually the Midrash or the idea is that actually their souls were there present at Sinai and made this covenant, even though they weren't physically there. And so, isn't that interesting, right? We have this group of people that were at Sinai, and then we have all these other souls, all these other people that were there but not physically present. So our sages, expound upon this or talk about this in the Talmud. In Tractate Shabbat 146a, it says, all Israel has a portion in the world to come. Even the generations not yet born were present at Sinai, it says. And so this teaching has been passed down by our sages that, even though they weren't there, they were there. But it's kind of interesting, right? In a way, if you think about it, because it kind of the things that my wife, the Rebbitzin, was teaching the last couple of weeks about death and about the soul and things, and it's kind of reinforces that kind of idea that the soul is kind of separate from the body, and when they're together, they become a special entity, a different entity. And when they're separated from each other, that entity is gone, and then so that's the way it kind of works. And so here we have in Yeshua's words, he kind of speaks a little bit about this in a different way. But here in John 10 verse 16, he talks and he says, and I have other sheep that are not of this fold. I must bring them also, and they will listen to my voice. So there will be one flock and one shepherd. And I feel like he's like talking about, definitely talking about I feel he's talking about converts, or others that are not in Israel, not, because we know that he came there for the Jewish people, for the other Israelites there. But here he's saying that there's some that are not in this fold. I feel like this is like people that are not Israelites already, or they're not Jews already, but they are going to be coming. And he's going to be their shepherd, right? He's going to be our shepherd in a sense. And it kind of, this verse you can kind of really I guess, have that vision that converts are like the ideal, right? In a sense, because they will, because they, by coming in through Yeshua, they will come into the Torah, and this is kind of like what seems like what Yeshua wants, or at least he's promoting it, All right. So what does this mean today? A living covenant. What does this mean for us? It means that, we have to think of ourselves as this unbroken chain from our ancestors, all the way back to Avraham, Isaac, Yaakov, all the Jews who were in Egypt, and then got rescued from Egypt and came to Israel. Those are all our people. We got to think of ourselves as they are our people, and we are Jews. And we have to change our mind to think that way. and that this covenant is for us. This covenant is everlasting because it started so long ago, and it will continue on through generations forever. It doesn't ever say there's an end to it. And so we are part of this covenant. And we also could think that our souls were there at Sinai, and that is partly the reason why are we here today, why we're keeping Shabbat, why we are not worried, why we care about the mitzvot and want to follow them, why are we drawn to reading the Torah, These are the reasons. And so that's how this living covenant is still living today. It's living in us. It's living in our children. It's living in the children of all the Jews around the world. Okay. So what's a practical step? What's our challenge this week? Right? Our challenge is to connect with your ancestors. For the children to connect with their ancestors, we need to spend some time and speak some time with your grandparents and your parents. Let them hear, ask them stories to tell you some lessons that they've learned, so that you can connect with your past generations. And hopefully most of those stories will involve a lesson from the Torah, a lesson that they learned, that they also maybe derived from the Bible, from Torah, from Yeshua's life, whatever. So that's your challenge. And us as parents, our challenge, our what we need to do is share with our children, our younger people. And we also can connect with our parents. We can connect with so we want to kind of bridge this generational gap. That's the challenge. To be able to speak to all of our generations so that we can all be connected. And so that is your challenge, and it will kind of show that this covenant is not only for one generation, but for all generations, right? And I thank my mom for, at least passing part of this covenant to me. Maybe not everything, but a lot, right? I feel like I was blessed by that. And so those of you who also have that blessing, ask your parents, your mom, your dad, and they will kind of share those things with you, okay? And those who are not, maybe, but you were blessed by, coming into the truth, and then you can go and try to share that with younger people around you. And also I want to add, point to you kids, younger people, you can also share with even younger people than you. Yes? Right? There are people that you can share, and you can, you can share stories about, oh yeah, one day I did this really dumb thing and I got in trouble, but then I learned a good lesson about it. You can do something like that. You can share with the younger people, try to keep them not from doing the same mistakes that you did, right? So that is also another job. So yeah, 2 jobs. Talk to your parents and talk to your younger siblings or younger people around you, and share the lessons that you've learned, okay? And that is my message, that we are in this eternal covenant, and to make sure that we stay in this eternal covenant and connect with the others that are in it. So Shabbat Shalom, everyone.